Good evening. Before we take a look at the headlines for tonight, we have just received information that a police curfew has been imposed in Ramukkana with immediate effect. Furthermore, U.S. Ambassador Julie Chung says she is saddened by the horrible news coming out of Ramukkana, where tensions arose during a protest. In a tweet, the ambassador said that she condemns any violence and calls for calm and restraint. The ambassador said a full, transparent investigation is essential and the people's right to peacefully protest must be upheld. Let's now take a look at your headlines for tonight.
CPC increases fuel prices. Fuel shortage worsens. People take to the streets in anger. Shots and tear gas fired at protesters in Ramukkana. 1 person dead, 12 injured. Bus fares go up by 35%. Cost of food increases. Doctors take to the streets as medicine shortage aggravates. Protests continue at Golfes. Was $2 million paid in bribes for those who accepted positions. MP Nalin Bandara questions. 39 MPs, including former President Maithripala and Wimal, sit in opposition benches.
Taking a look at a developing story this hour, at least 1 person has been killed after police opened fire to disperse protesters who held a protest by obstructing the railway tracks at Ramukkana today. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation's decision to increase fuel prices from midnight prompted a wave of protests across the country.
Please stop that! දාවේල හොයාගෙන කන මිනිස්සු
ඕම් බලාගෙන ඉන්න ඕම් මේ රඩේ වැඩ ඕම් බලාගෙන මේ රජේ වැඩ ඕම් අපේ ගොල්ලෝ ඕම් ඉන්න පොඩ්ඩක් අපිත් මේ වැදිලා තියෙන්නේ මේ කොරේ ඕම් අපිට සලකන හැටි ඕම් හොඳට බලන්න ඕම් මේ හොඳට බලන්න මේ බලාගෙන හොඳට බලන්න ඕම්
People had organized protests at the Rabukkana town today to express their dismay over the fuel price hike. Entry points to the Rabukkana town from Marvanella, Kegol and Kurunegala were blocked during these protests. Our correspondent reported that protesters had used wooden railway sleepers to block the railway line in the area. The railway control room said this had affected the movement of trains. All shops at the Rabukkana town were closed due to demonstrations.
අද දින අලුයම් කාලයේ සිට රඹුක්කන නගරයේ පිහිටි දුම්රිය හරස් මාර්ගයේ අවහිරවන ආකාරයට
Since this morning, protesters had been obstructing the railway crossing in Rambukkana. A diesel bowser had been stopped across the tracks. This had affected the movement of trains. The police had repeatedly warned protesters to go away. They had then attempted to set fire to the fuel bowser. They had set fire to a three-wheeler. They had taken steps to damage public property. Police then used tear gas to disperse the protesters. Some protesters had then hurled stones towards the police. The police had then fired shots to bring the situation under control. Some protesters had been injured and some have been admitted to the Kegal hospital. Some police officers who were attacked by the protesters have been hospitalized as well. Police officers have been stationed there to bring the situation under control.
මෙම ස්ථානයේ පාලනය කිරීම සඳහා පොලිස් නිලධාරීන් තවදුරටත් මෙම ස්ථානයේ රාජකාරී නිරත වෙමින් ප්‍රදේශයේ සාමකාමී තත්ත්වය ඇති කිරීම සඳහා අවශ්‍ය කටයුතු මේ වන විටත් සිදු කරමින් පවතිනවා.
The incident in Ramukkana has drawn the attention of Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission and the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. The Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission has called for a special report on shots being fired at protesters in Ramukkana. Chairperson of the Human Rights Commission, retired Supreme Court Judge Rohini Marasinghe confirmed this to Newsfirst. President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, President's Counsel Salya Peris says the BASL is shocked and saddened at the loss of life in the incident. He has called for an independent investigation, stating that the government must ensure that the police and armed forces act with utmost restraint in the light of the genuine grievances of protesters. Protests were held in several parts of the country against the government's decision to increase fuel prices.
Protests against the fuel price hike were held at the Ratnapura town today. People who were in queue for fuel since last night had organized a protest this morning after being informed of the decision to increase fuel prices. They blocked roads running from Colombo to Ratnapura, Ambalipitiya and Badulla. The protesters demanded for fuel to be sold at the old rates. The protest was held at the Gaul main bus stand along the main road running from Gaul to Colombo. Our correspondent reported that the protesters had blocked all entry roads to the Gaul town. Residents of Digana held a protest by obstructing the main road running from Kandy to Mahayanganaya. They opposed the fuel price hike and the current political administration. Long-distance buses didn't operate along the A9 road running from Kandy to Jaffna. Private buses also pulled out of operation to support the ongoing protests. The protests at Kadugastoda by blocking the A9 road began at 9 this morning. Private buses in Thangal pulled out of operation to oppose the decision to increase fuel prices. Fishermen of Kudabella protested against the fuel price hike by blocking the main road running from Mathura to Vellawaya at the Kudabella junction. Protests were also held by blocking all entry roads to the Bandaravilla town. Private bus owners held a protest at the Mathura town against the decision to increase fuel prices. Our correspondent reported that the protesters had blocked the Colombo-Mathura main road at the Mahanama bridge. Fishermen of Point Dondra held a demonstration by blocking the Katragama main road. Our correspondent reported that the protesters had blocked the road leading to the residence of Minister Kanchana Wijesekara. Protests were held by blocking one lane along the A9 and A6 roads at the Dabula town. Protesters had also blocked the Mullavellia main road in Hatton. Demonstrations were held by blocking the main roads running from Hatton to Bhagawantalawa and Muskelia at the Dikkoya town. Residents of Avisawella organised a protest at the Colombo Road opposing the decision to increase fuel prices. The protest affected the movement of vehicles along the Avisawella-Colombo main road. A protest was staged by people obstructing the Negombo Road near the entrance to the Katunayaka Expressway. A group of people in Gampala who queued up for fuel since dawn launched a protest after the fuel price hike was announced. The protest affected the movement of vehicles along the main roads running from Gampala to Kandy and Nawalapitiya. How will the fuel crisis be resolved? Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara had this to say in Parliament.
Khanija Tela Sansthawe Dainika Paduwa ඊයේ රාත්‍රී වන විට රුපියල් මිලියන 1613ක්
By last night, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation had been sustaining losses of about 1.6 billion rupees daily. But we understand that many people have been affected due to the latest fuel price hike. If an opposition member takes over my position tomorrow, he will be forced to take the same decision I took. I am willing to give up my position to anyone who is willing and capable of reducing the price of fuel in Sri Lanka. CPETCO and the IOC reached a joint agreement that we must implement a fuel price formula. We will implement it in the near future.
මිල සූත්‍රයක් අනුව මේ කටයුතු ඉදිරියේදී ක්‍රියාත්මක විය යුතුයි කියන එකත් ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීම සඳහා අපි කටයුතු කරනවා කියන එකත් මේ වෙලාවේ මතක් කරනවා.
Fuel price hike. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation has increased the cost of octane 92 petrol by 84 rupees, octane 95 petrol by 90 rupees, diesel by 113 rupees and super diesel by 75 rupees. These are the latest fuel prices of the CPC and Lanka IOC. Three-wheeler fares. We wish to tell three-wheel drivers to temporarily halt metered rides. They should decide on reasonable fares without inconveniencing the passengers. Bus fares. Our buses are not operating fully across the country. Only a few buses are operating along certain routes. We can't ask them to keep running. About 90% of the buses are not operating today. We wish to tell the government that this will go up to 100%. If drivers are reluctant to operate buses, then they can refrain from operating. But buses of the Sri Lanka Transport Board should be in operation. They must be allowed to operate. I have instructed the IGP to take action if they are obstructed from operating. We believe that the private bus industry must not be affected, but we need to think about the passengers as well. The National Transport Commission granted permission to increase bus fares by 35%. The minimum bus fare now stands at 27 rupees. Cost of bakery products.
Prima has decided to increase the price of wheat flour by 40 rupees a kilo. Bakeries have also increased the price of a loaf of bread by 30 rupees. We decided to increase the price of bread by about 30 rupees. We will increase the price of other products by about 10 rupees. Otherwise, we won't be able to sustain our businesses. The Restaurant Owners Association said the cost of food items such as rice and kottu would be increased by about 20%. Restaurant owners have decided to increase the cost of food by about 20%. Medicine shortage. The shortage of medicines and medical equipment has left the healthcare sector in jeopardy. Doctors participated in silent demonstrations calling for a solution to the crisis. Medical staff of the Lady Ridgeway Children's Hospital were among those involved in the protest. This can be the most helpless time a doctor has ever felt. We will be utterly helpless if we see children dying before our eyes without medicines. We are forced to beg for medicines. We are begging from our friends overseas to send us medicines. This has happened due to the weakness in decision making. Healthcare workers of the Bulletin General Hospital were also involved in the demonstrations. We have brought an empty coffin here. One day it might be either you or me who is placed in coffins like this. However, our deaths can happen due to natural causes or an accident and not due to the shortage of medicines. Medical staff of the Balangoda Base Hospital also held demonstrations.
What is the solution for the medicine shortage? On multiple occasions, former Health Minister Kehelia Rambukwella and myself tried to ensure that medicines are prioritized when letters of credit were being issued, but there were delays in that. To import some medicines, we had to wait until the first week of April to receive letters of credit that should have been issued during the first week of January. Now we have received enough dollars to import letters of credit. We will import these medicines with the support of the Sri Lankan government, the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank. But there is a delay in importing some medicines because of the delay in opening letters of credit. The arrival of some medicines may be delayed by up to 90 days. There is a possibility that there might be a medicine shortage in the next 3 months, but we have taken steps to minimize the impact of that.
News First with the people.
We have more news in store for you, but first a quick commercial break. Stay tuned.
මොකද මහත්තයා මේ
නෑ මේ ගෙදර සිංක් එකේ
අයි මහත්තයා ස්ලෝන් නෙවෙයිද දැම්මේ
හදිස්සියට බාල පයිප් එකක් දැම්මේ නැද්ද මුදලාලි ඊයේ පෙරේදා කඩේ රිපෙයාර් කරන්න ගෙනාපු ගම් චුට්ටා
මේ වගේ ප්‍රශ්න වලට හොඳම විසඳුම ස්ලෝන් ගම් චුට්ටා හැබැයි ඉක්මනින් දාගන්න ස්ලෝන් පයිප් එකක්
ස්ලෝන් ගම් චුට්ටා හැම ගෙදරකම සිටිය යුතු ජලනල කාර්මිකයා දැන් රංගම ග්‍රොසරියෙන් මිලදී ගන්න
Tech Bus launched to increase the tech know-how of Sri Lankan students concludes on a successful note. Organized by Slit Institute.
Tech Bus.
Main sponsor.
Slit Knowledge University. Challenging convention and redefining education.
Welcome back. Continuing in more local news, crowds are gathering at golfers opposite the president's office in Colombo demanding the resignation of the president and the government. Naveshka Gunasekara brings us the latest from the demonstration site.
On the 9th of April, it was a Saturday at 10 a.m., thousands of protesters gathered here at Goldface Green demanding the president and the government to resign immediately and provide solutions to the ongoing economic crisis. People have come from all walks of life, They have come here despite the bad weather, despite the rain, the sunny days, and even their busy schedules. They have somehow made time to come here and unite as one under the Sri Lankan flag because they want a better tomorrow. Now, all these people have united because they have one need, they have one demand, and that is for President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and the government to immediately step down and provide solutions to the crisis that Sri Lanka is currently facing. Now, we also see very special things at this protest site. People are staying here overnight. There is a zero plastic zone and there is barely any vandalism being reported from this protest site. People are here genuinely because they want a better tomorrow. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Naveksha Gunasekara reporting to you from Goldface Green.
I voted for him, but it's time for him to go because he did not fulfill any promise that he gave starting from the Easter attack. If he doesn't go, it will only add to the agony and it will compound to a different situation. So I hope and pray that we see the end of it soon.
Demonstrations opposite the President's office are taking place in an organized manner. Protesters who stayed the night resumed demonstrations in the morning by cleaning the surroundings.
I am one of the 6.9 million people who voted for the government. The Rajapaksa family and the 225 parliamentarians must be chased away. I came here from Norelia to join the protests at least for an hour. The rains did not hamper the demonstrations at Goldface this morning.
First thing, we need to get rid of the family politics. This is one of the very bad curse for this country, and we need to get rid of Rajapaksha's first thing. Look at Bangladesh, look at Singapore. Leaders love the nation, but these leaders, they love only their family.
මේ දුප්පත් ළමයි බනිස් ගෙඩියක්වත් කන්නේ කොහොමද මේ ඉස්කෝලේ යන පන්ති යන පොඩි ළමයි ටියුෂන් යන ළමයිට බනිස් ගෙඩියක් අම්මලා අරන් දෙන්නේ කොහොමද ළමයි කොච්චර මේ රටේ මේ වෙනකොට බඩගින්නේ ඉන්නවද.
Lawyers have continued to express their support to the demonstrations.
We are not afraid to die. Lawyers will provide 24-hour support to those involved in the peaceful protests.
International medal-winning bodybuilding champion Prasanna Piris joined the demonstrations today. Sachit Maduranga, who bagged silver at the javelin throw event at the 2013 Asian Games, called off his fast amidst cheers from the crowd. University Lecturers Federation marched to the demonstration site from opposite the Colombo University today.
University lecturers are engaging in this to strengthen those who are protesting against this government without any party affiliations. When something is unfavorable, university lecturers should pressurize the government to rectify that. We also have to add our voice on behalf of those who are protesting.
University students had joined the demonstration as well.
Meanwhile, Sri Lankan expatriates are also adding their voice to the ongoing protests.
Sri Lankans in South Korean capital of Seoul organized a protest today. The demonstration was held opposite the main railway station in the area.
We will be back with more news right after this. Stay tuned.
Tech Bus, launched to increase the tech know-how of Sri Lankan students, concludes on a successful note. Organised by Slit Institute.
Tech Bus.
Main sponsor.
Slit Knowledge University, challenging convention and redefining education.
The protest march that is being held under the theme "Let's Dismiss This Cruel Government" reached Colombo today. National People's Power leader Anura Kumar Dissanayake led a rally at the Lipton roundabout today.
Protesters who began their march in Beruwala a few days ago reached Colombo today. They passed through Moratuwa, Vallavatta, Pamankada and Havelock Town. The march was held to raise concerns against the economic policies of the government and the rising cost of living in the country. Parliamentarians of the National People's Power, professionals, youth and civil activists were among those who joined the march.
Who brought this corruption upon us? It was the corrupt officials in power. They can't escape by making temporary arrangements.
පොඩ්ඩක්වත් නැහැ නේද සුවපත් වෙමින් ලැබ පිරිවර සේනාද ගයපන් කුරුල්ලෝ හෙට යුග ගීනාද අපිට වර්තමානයේ පැවරිච්ච
The duty that was entrusted upon us was to transform these crowds to think like citizens. There are massive crowds but fewer citizens. Let us produce good citizens for this country.
පුරවැසියන් බිහි කරමු අපේ රටට දැක්කේ නැද්ද ඇස් ගිලිලා හිනාවක් නැහැ මූණේ කම්.
There are no smiles on our faces. We wish to ask the brothers whether they are having a good sleep at night. Are they able to digest the food they eat? The curse has come back to haunt them.
Protests are continuing to take place across the country, demanding the resignation of the President, Prime Minister and the Cabinet. They are demanding solutions to the ongoing economic crisis that has burdened the lives of the people. However, what is taking place across the local political spectrum? 17 cabinet ministers and 24 state ministers were appointed by the President yesterday. Among the state ministers were the Sri Lanka Freedom Party's Deputy Secretary Dr. Suren Ragavan, Diana Gamage, who supported the government from the Samagi Janabalawegya, Dr. Gayashan Navananda of the Democratic Left Front led by Vasudeva Nanayakkara, Arvind Kumar of the Tamil Progressive Alliance. 39 parliamentarians who are sitting independently took their seats among the opposition benches today. This included former President Maithripala Sirisena, Vimal Weerawansa, Vasudeva Nanayakkara and Udaya Gammanpila. Priyanka Rajaratne, who served as State Minister, also sat among the opposition benches today.
Vimal Weerawansa mentioned that attempts were made yesterday to lure some MPs from his camp onto the other side. He said deals were made pledging money and ministerial positions. We have information of $2 million bribes being given to the newly appointed state ministers. That is how this government attempts to establish authority. Today, we don't have money to purchase medicine. More than 50 patients are dying at hospitals without medicine daily. That is murder. You have spent more than $2 million to secure their position in power instead of purchasing medicine.
What steps will be taken to address the economic crisis? These were the views expressed in Parliament today. Solutions to this crisis must be found through discussions. Remember that we will not keep people in queues even if a solution is not provided in 24 hours. Social and political stability must be maintained when finding solutions to this economic crisis. Therefore, I believe a constitutional amendment must come into effect to find immediate and practical solutions to this crisis. I believe enacting the 19th Amendment with necessary and timely changes democratically is the only short-term solution that can be taken.
කෙටි කාලීනව ගත හැකි කාලෝචිත විසඳුම් බවයි මගේ විශ්වාසය.
Do you have any brains? This government caused this economic downfall intentionally. We see this as a cursed attempt to send 22 million people to their graves. You passed the 20th Amendment. We won't be satisfied even if you agree to the 19th Amendment. You must abolish the executive presidency. Don't introduce one solution to all the problems. Don't try to deceive us. The president must resign. This government must resign. I would like to tell the Prime Minister the opposition won't evade their responsibility given today's situation. As the Prime Minister who presented the 19th Amendment, bring it back. My only request is that you withdraw the 20th Amendment as soon as possible. I don't think appointing a new cabinet will bring a solution to the crisis. Every attempt made by this government for more than 2 years has been futile. With that failure, the people believe that the government should resign. That is the stance of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party as well. What was said when the district secretaries were convened? You told the district secretaries that the fertilizer policy won't be changed. However, yesterday the president said that the decision was a mistake. Can the president admit that he made a mistake after the country suffered a deadly blow? This is not a minor mistake like crossing a double line on the road. They floated the rupee against the US dollar after wasting the foreign reserves of the country. This is similar to Cabral standing on his hands while wearing a sarong. Vehicles have to wait in queues for 4 hours and run highs for 2 hours. After waiting in fuel queues for 8 hours, lorries can only run highs for 2 hours. The people were pouring out their grievances, but how did you respond to it? You said you have enough money. Didn't Minister Johnston Fernandes say that? When Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa arrived from India, journalists questioned him at the airport regarding the economic crisis. He is in Shangri-La. He has electricity and food. He can afford to purchase luxury items. At that time, he said he doesn't think about the future. The solution provided by this government and the president has failed. The dual citizen whom you brought down to the country portrayed that he would guide the economy into a comfortable zone. The people on your side believe that and did the needful. Today, karma has worked out in a way that they are now going behind new parliamentarians to give them ministerial portfolios after ignoring the seniors. We were removed from our positions on the 3rd of March. Now they're helpless. We wouldn't mind if you are utterly helpless, but the entire country is in dire straits. Although there are young ministers, the government doesn't have the ethical right to remain in power anymore. You can't steer the public administration system. Therefore, understand the gravity of this situation at least now. We are asking the Prime Minister and the government to resign and to make way for an interim government to stabilize the situation in the country. Those who are seated at the back after letting go of their positions are waiting to regain it. When the horses can't take the cart forward, that task has been given to some ponies and donkeys. Shantha Bandaru disrespected those in his neighborhood by acting like a rogue simply because his daughter couldn't eat cheese. The other children in this country don't have food, leave alone cheese. It would be good if people like Shantha Bandaru understand that. I made that political decision according to my conscience. Everyone shouts at each other from both sides of the house. Who accepted responsibility? Will Sajid Premadasa accept it? Will Anwar Kumar Dissanayake accept it? Will the independent group accept it?
Sri Lanka Freedom Party member Dr. Suren Raghavan has been removed from all his positions in the Sri Lanka Freedom Party after accepting a state ministerial position. The SLFP had made this decision after strong opposition by the party's district organisers at a meeting earlier today.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ අපි අද
All of us representing the Sri Lanka Freedom Party took our seats in the opposition today. We are in the opposition, but by no means are we under the leadership of opposition leader Sajith Premadasa. We are independent.
අපි විපක්ෂයේ ඉන්නෙත් ස්වාධීන කණ්ඩායමක් විදියටයි.
The no confidence motion has not been tabled in Parliament yet. We have not been informed of what's presented in the no confidence motion yet. We will arrive at our decision once we have all the information we need.
Sri Lanka's finance ministry said the International Monetary Fund will consider providing quick financial assistance to debt-burdened Sri Lanka following representations by India.
Finance Minister Ali Sabri met with the International Monetary Fund's Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva yesterday at the IMF headquarters in Washington, D.C. The International Monetary Fund has commended the steps already taken by the Finance Minister to mitigate the present financial crisis in Sri Lanka. The IMF has assured their fullest support to Sri Lanka, and a positive response has also been received to expedite the process to strengthen their support. The Finance Minister has made a request for a rapid financing instrument with the IMF. The IMF has subsequently informed Minister Sabri that India had also made representations on behalf of Sri Lanka for an RFI. The IMF had said that it would consider the special request made despite it being outside of the standard circumstances to issue a rapid financing instrument. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and the top-level Indian economic delegation had met with Finance Minister Ali Sabri at the IMF headquarters yesterday. Minister Sitharaman had assured her Sri Lankan counterpart on India's fullest support to Sri Lanka to move forward and had emphasized on India's commitment to strengthen the development of the economy in Sri Lanka and building stronger ties between the two nations as they move forward. The Indian Finance Minister had also affirmed that India will fully support the deliberations of Sri Lanka with the IMF, especially on the special request made for expediting an extended fund facility. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman had met with IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva yesterday. They had discussed several issues currently being faced by the global and regional economies. The Indian Finance Minister had indicated that IMF should support and urgently provide financial assistance to Sri Lanka. The IMF Managing Director had assured that the IMF would continue to actively engage with Sri Lanka.
In light of the crisis that has affected the country, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa says elections are the best way out of these problems. He made these comments in an interview with Bloomberg.
We will concentrate on a five-pronged approach. That is the abolition of the executive presidency, the repealing of the 20th draconian amendment, which centralized power in the executive president, and bringing back the 19th amendment. We will ensure that we embark on a no confidence motion, an impeachment motion. We will also examine the possibilities of cutting off funding for the president. The economic, political and social catastrophe. This is due to the mismanagement of the economy and lack of political reforms and restructuring. This government should have gone to the international community about a year and a half ago, but they continued on a policy of isolation. People are in dire straits. So one has put forth the point that this may not be an opportunity to go for elections, but I think that's the best way forward in order to come out of this political, economic and social gridlock. We have to take a step forward, but it's going to be a time of extreme austerity. But if we take these bold steps, we can overcome all the challenges that we face.
And with that, wrap up news for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. Do take care, stay safe, and good night.